Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. What a beautiful day it is out today. We've been working in the garden, trying to get some more stuff in the ground, getting just stuff done around here. That's what we have to do. That's what you need to be doing, we need to be doing. We need to be staying busy every chance we get, just getting ready, not just on a day-to-day basis around the homestead, but getting ready for the stuff that's happening. And the more prepared and the more you do on your homestead, really in the end, the more prepared you are overall. I talked about yesterday's video, or in yesterday's video, I had, if you haven't seen it, you might want to go and watch yesterday's video, basically saying that it has hit the fan, just not everyone realizes it yet. And got a lot of positive response from that because I think a lot of people agree with that the excrement has hit the fan. It's not been one big explosive action that, everyone on the planet realizes, oh my goodness, all the power just went out, or oh my goodness, a major city just exploded, or a large asteroid just hit the planet, or a massive, caldera volcano just blew. It's nothing's quite like that. And that's what a lot of people expect. This is a different kind of SHTF. This is an SHTF that it's gradually dragging us under. It's gradually overtaking us, gradually changing the world that we live in just day by day. And so I want to expound a little bit more on that because in the video, of course, I do like I do in every video, you got to get prepared, you got to get prepared. Well, let's talk about that more. And this is something that I do every once in a while. I do these videos where I talk about these are the things you need to do to be prepared. So this is just kind of a refresher. And I know some of you, you're going to say, well, I've been a prepper for 20, 30 years. I got a little lamb coming up over here. What are you doing? I don't know how well you can see this, but this little girl is just, that's the daddy right there. And she's about 4 or 5 days old. Mommy's over there. Boy, talk about interrupting the videos. How rude interrupting the videos. Anyways, we'll just keep going. So I know some of you are, hardened, preppers that know everything there is to know about prepping. Some of you are brand new, and I suspect that a lot of you are kind of in between. There she goes. She realized where mommy was. I suspect that a lot of you fall in between that. But really, it doesn't matter. We all need, from time to time, refreshers. We all need reminders of what we need to do, and I'm the same way. I mean, we're the same way. That's just how it is. So, as the world is drastically changing, as we are trying to become more self-sufficient, which is really that merging of preparedness, prepping, whatever you want to call it, survivalism, and homesteading or natural, simple, off-the-land living. You merge them together, and in the end, you really get you get a self-sufficient lifestyle, which prepares you not just short-term, but very long-term, and over a wide variety of things that can happen. You're going to be prepared for. So let's go over some things. Of course, food preps. You need to always be working on the food preps. I've talked about this for the 2 or 3 years that I've been doing these videos. When you're going to buy your groceries, just try to buy a little extra, okay? If you buy a week's worth of groceries at a time, try to buy 2 weeks worth of groceries. And don't wait till 2 weeks so that you use all those up. Buy your groceries, continue buying them on a weekly basis if that's what's normal for you. Just try to buy extra each time. Or if you buy them on a 2-week basis or a month, whatever it is, try to buy enough to put back. In the end, try to have about a year's supply of just normal everyday foods. These are the foods that you use on a regular daily basis, your normal pantry. So you try to build up to you have about a year worth of those normal pantry foods. Most pantry foods have at least a year shelf life. Your peanut butter and your jelly and your pasta and your canned soup and all the things that you normally, your grains and your cereals and stuff that you normally have in your pantry. Try to have at least a year's supply of that. Build up to that. Prices are increasing. Supplies at times, they vary, but you're still in a place, I believe we are as a nation, that you're still capable of doing that. Then after that, try to have about a 2-year supply of more long-term foods. That's going to be your beans, your rice, your freeze-dried foods, your pastas, canned foods that, if they're stored properly, will normally last between 5 and 10 years, depending on what they are. And then, your canned foods, your dehydrated foods. That's your more long term. And so try to have at least a 2-year supply of that kind of stuff. So there's your food. You need water. So make sure you're working on your water plan. What is your water plan? Is your water plan just to depend upon that the faucet, when you turn it on, the water's going to come out? Are you just depending on that when you turn that faucet on and the water comes out, that it's always going to be clean and it's always going to be safe for you to drink? If that's your plan, then you really need to work on it. Because even if you have your own well, or if you're on a city water or a county water, there's no guarantee that that will always work. And there's no guarantee that that water will always be clean. So you need to have a plan, whether you're collecting rainwater, digging your own well, living in a place where you have a stream or a creek or spring or something like that nearby, a pond, a lake. And if that's it, do you have a way to transport that water? Because it's a lot of water if you have to transport it. If your plan includes you transporting water every day a mile or two, that's a lot of work. So how are you going to do that? And then what are you going to do when you get that water? How are you going to clean the water? Are you going to filter it, purify it? What's your methods? And always have plenty of backup plans, because that is important. And if you're storing water, research storing water. Water, it doesn't last forever. It can start to grow bacteria. Things can happen to it. There's ways that you can add a little bit of bleach to it, and it can last for a very long time. But you need to research that, and don't just expect that this, milk jugs that you filled with water are just always going to be good for you, because it doesn't work that way. Don't just always assume things. And then beyond that, you need to work on producing your own food, because you can't store up enough food for the rest of your life. You need to produce your own food. It's why we have these sheep out here. That's one of our food sources. We have a large garden. Like I said, we've been working on that this morning. Work on producing your own food, and then work on preserving that food. The preservation of the food is just about as important as knowing how to produce the food, how to grow it and raise it. So do the research on that and practice those skills, because it is a skill. It's not something you can just read in a book and just automatically know. You can find the information in a book, but it doesn't always transpose into actually having the skill right away. So you kind of have to practice on it. And then from there on, those are really kind of your real basics. Of course, if you don't have the land, you want to continue to try to work for it if that's your plan. If your plan is to kind of get out of the city, which I always, hands down, I will always encourage someone to get out of the city. Always. Because they're fastly becoming unsafe places. I think I saw that New York City, over the past 12 months, the crime rate has increased by something like 275%. And there's other cities that they've increased by triple-digit numbers. And all cities, the crime rates have increased. Virtually every city in the United States, the crime rates have gone up over the past year or so. And most likely will continue to go up as we're hearing, more and more police officers are just saying, you know what, I've had enough of this, and I'm taking early retirement, or I'm finding a new career, and less people are signing up to become police officers. So, and most of these big cities either have highly restrictive or at least some kind of restrictive laws on personal ownership and carrying of firearms. So it's a bad combination. So get out of the cities. You can still find land. There's still places around here in my area and other areas. Prices do seem to be ticking up a little bit. Around here, not as much as what I have seen in other parts of the country, but I have noticed a slight increase in prices, but still well within what most people could afford, which around here, home and land prices are pretty cheap, well below national averages. So work towards that. And once you get there, work towards building the infrastructure on that property. I tell people, not saying that this is what's going to happen, but when you have your little homestead property and you're planning it and you're developing it, think the thought of, if I was completely cut off from the rest of the world, or if I knew that I was going to be completely cut off from the rest of the world, how would I develop and build this homestead? And I think that's a good way of thinking. Doesn't mean that you are going to be, and even if, if by chance you ever were completely cut off, it would be pretty devastating and hard to survive. But the point is if you think that way when you're building your homestead, if I have no other contact with the outside world, what would I do? How would I build it? What would I prepare for? That's the kind of thinking that gets you in the place of being self-sufficient. I like to do things a little bit more primitive, a little bit more old school, less technology, because I think that technology is not reliable. And in a world that they're trying to push us to be more technological, I try to go the other direction. So research old ways of doing stuff, what pioneers, what the Amish may do, and try to implement those in your homestead. And of course, the infrastructure on your homestead, buildings, fencing, gates, and then that along with the security of your homestead. Making sure that your homestead is securable as best as possible, that you understand the weak points and the strong points and the areas that most likely could pose a threat to you. One of the things that I do here, and I've always done, is try to become familiar and memorize where things are and where cover could be and concealment could be and where a place that an intruder might come in, and get to know those also at night. Without any lighting. It's my wife thinks I'm a little crazy sometimes, but it's not too uncommon for me at night to just start walking around the property and even out to the woods and through the field and stuff in the dark with no flashlights, so that I can, become pretty familiar with everything and places that could, if I'm having to chase someone or run from someone, that I could either hide behind, or things that could trip me up. And so I try to get to know the property real well, even in the dark. Doing stuff like that for the security of your property is also essential. And then along the way, kind of the last big tip is just stocking up on the things that you need. We talked about food, the animals, the infrastructure, but other things that you need. Parts for certain tools and machinery that you might have, having spare parts, looking for things a lot of times people throw away, or they're used and they want to get rid of them. Metal, wood, auto parts, farm parts, old fencing, gates, fence posts, things like that. Along the way, having a little stash of that can come in handy sometimes. So these are the things that can kind of help you get towards that level of self-sufficiency. And then also along the way, of course, researching stuff like solar power, wind power, hydropower, and then other ways to heat your home, other ways to heat your water, things like that can kind of be there in case things get really bad, because they could certainly turn that direction. And even if things don't get bad like that because of some apocalyptic thing, we don't know how far this crazy, radical, progressive, Marxist, globalist ideology is going to go. And it may come to a day that the only way that you can avoid being part of their system that they're creating and taking their shots and their marks and their intrusion into your life, and it may be the only way to avoid that is to live a pretty primitive life outside of the system. It's quite possible, because you may need all that stuff to purchase the things to live a more modern life. So, point being said with all of this is, I really think it has hit the fan. And it may get worse, and I expect it probably will get worse. I don't think it's hit the fan as like the world has ended and it's awful. I think enough of stuff has hit the fan that we should know that it's not just talk anymore. It's not just what ifs. It's not just what they want to do. These are things that they are putting into place all over the world, here in the United States. The money that's being spent, the policies that are being put into place on a national, federal level, on a state level, on local levels, the whole shifting of just our culture and moral standards. It's been so drastic in just such a short amount of time that I think enough stuff has hit the fan for us to call it that. So along the way, we have to prepare. We have to be serious about it, and we have to remind ourselves and encourage each other. If you have friends and people in your area that are living the same lifestyle, encourage and help. Build community. That is extremely important, so that it actually helps you and them at the same time overcome the obstacles that we're going to face in this world, in this crazy mess that we're living in right now. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.